This 5-year-old kid outsmarted a killer when he broke into his home. This kid was quietly sleeping in his room when he heard someone break into his house. But instead of panicking and running towards his parents, he hid under the sheets and didn't make a sound. And he listened attentively to know what's happening. And this is when he heard his parents begging for their lives. That's when he quietly peeked into his parents' room. And there, he witnessed something a child should never see.
Did you see? Were you awake when this happened, or were you sleeping?
Sleeping, but I woke up myself. And he put a gun on my mom and dad's head. And he put these little time things on my mom and my dad, so they couldn't walk.
This little kid witnessed firsthand the worst case of home invasion that the United States has ever seen. And after everything he witnessed, his house was set on fire in front of his own eyes. In this video, you'll see how this little boy saved his mother's life and how he made sure that his father's killer would never get away with murder. The peaceful life of Kay and Joe Morrissey with their adopted son, Patrick, got disturbed when one night someone broke into their house.
What happened from the beginning last night?
I was in my craft room and the TV was on and I heard a noise like something fall down.
That's when Kay knew that they were being robbed. The robber covered their head with cloth, tied their hands and feet with zip ties, and pointed a gun at their heads so they wouldn't dare to fight back. And sadly, little Patrick witnessed it all.
I know earlier you said you knew something about some robbers or something?
Yeah.
What
A robber attacked our house and my dad died.
By the end of the ordeal, Patrick's mother was left in shock, covered in blood, and sustained multiple physical injuries. Unfortunately, his mother couldn't describe the robber because her eyes were covered and she never saw his face. But there are a few details that Patrick's mom recalled. The robber was not alone because he was using a two-way radio, as if he was just waiting for instructions. And also, the cash they had hidden in their home was stolen. But will this be enough to find the suspect? At first, no. The police couldn't pinpoint a suspect. So they asked Patrick's mom if there was someone that wanted them dead, and she mentioned one name, Randy Tundidor. The police immediately checked on Randy, but when they questioned him, this is what went down.
You ever had any dealings with Mr. Morrissey other than being a tenant?
Yeah, well, right now I'm suing him because I fell down the stairs in the house because of lack of repairs. He stopped talking to me because of the lawsuit.
And when asked where he was during the time of the murder, this is what he said.
What time did you come home last night?
I was home most of the night.
Did you call anybody?
Actually, my son called me. He needed money, but I won't help him.
Which son?
Randy Jr.
So the Tundidors were Morrissey's tenants, but their relationship turned sour because of the accident and the lawsuit, which made the police think that this was a possible motive for the murder. And then Randy mentioned something suspicious. He said that on the night of the murder, his son was in desperate need of money to feed his drug addiction. So the police immediately brought in Randy Jr. for questioning, and this is the only answer they got.
I don't have no connection with this murder. I don't know who did it. I want to clear my name because I did not commit this murder.
The police weren't able to prove that Randy Jr. is guilty, so Joe Morrissey's murder remained unsolved even after his burial. But one day, a new call gave hope in finding Joe's murderer. Shockingly, the call was from Randy Tundidor's younger son, Sean. And this is his chilling confession.
Basically, I'm gonna tell you straight up. My dad did it. My dad did it.
This revelation changed everything, but the police wouldn't believe him without any proof. So Sean requested a recording device to get a confession from his father, and he did. But the recording wasn't that clear.
There was a lot of background noise, whether it didn't record properly or there was some sort of obstruction in the recording.
Are they going to recover Randy's confession and finally give justice to Joe's murderer? Well, after some time, the police were able to extract the audio, and they couldn't believe what they heard. Randy Sr. confessed to this. The police then immediately searched the shop, and there they found enough evidence to put Randy Sr. and Jr. behind bars. The police collected recently disposed zip ties, which were the same ones used to tie Morrissey's hands. They found two-way radios like the ones the killers used, and the foreign currency bills that matched the stolen cash from the Morrissey's house. It turns out Randy Sr. was the real mastermind behind it all. He manipulated his son to break into and rob Morrissey's house. Not only that, he gave his son drugs so he could do the job to kill the Morrisseys. But Randy Jr. failed at finishing the job given to him by his father because he left the house on fire to kill Kay and Patrick Morrissey. But that night, little Patrick became a real-life superhero. Instead of crying and being afraid of the fire and all the smoke, little Patrick stood up and rescued his mom. He ran bravely through the fire to get a pair of scissors to set his mom free.
I saved my mom and got the scissors to cut those.
Wow, you're like a hero.
My mom said.
Everyone who heard Patrick's testimony was left speechless. After this, Randy Jr. confessed to the murder and even testified against his father for being the mastermind behind it all. By unanimous decision, Randy Jr. was sentenced to 40 years in prison, and Randy Sr. was sentenced to death. These criminals didn't get away with murder because of this 5-year-old kid.